Hi everyone, my name is Myra and I am the creator of Zeoto pen. Zeoto pen is a heat pen that is lead-free certified and food safe. It comes in a beautiful travel size case and it includes 8 silver variable tips and 4 ballpoint tips. Today for my demonstration, I decided to do something kind of fun. I figured 15 years of being married represents crystal. So I thought it'd be fun to create a topper with semi-isomalt, which is beautiful, to etch into and make it look like crystal, representing 15 years and also the crystal. So I hope that you can see all the beautiful etch effects here. And this is what I will be doing for my demonstration. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and I will respond. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoy this demo. Okay, so you will see here that I have already warmed up the Isomalt. I used about 6 of these little cubes that come in the ready-to-use Isomalt, the bulk, the 1 pound bag. And I have a little bit left over. You don't need to pour that much. Again, it all depends on how thick that you want to pour it. But I have already gone ahead and heated up my Isomalt and poured it into the molds. And these are regular cookie cutters. They come in different shapes and they are not that large. I'm going to say about 2.5 inches, and this is probably about a 3-inch round. And what I did was I greased the edges with a Pam spray so that the Isomalt would not stick. I put it on a stainless steel baking pan so it's easier to move around when I need to, and I am using semi-isomalt. It's a really thin flex sheet, which is wonderful. It is heat safe and it will sustain the heat of the Isomalt when you pour it. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait until this dries into the mold, and sometimes, oh, that cracked a little bit, sometimes it actually sticks to the mat and it comes out all on its own, which is great because you don't have to really work that hard to remove the Isomalt from the mold. And this one is doing the same thing. I greased them really, really well, and as you see, they both removed very easily. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and wipe off all the excess spray that I used for the edges. Let's wipe this off. And I'm going to show you about how thick that is. Okay, and we're going to do the same with our plaque. Such a beautiful Isomalt, very clear. And that's about how thick this one is. So what I'm going to do is torch the back so that I can take away the film. Turn this one around. Okay, then I'm going to let them cool down a little bit. I'm going to put these to the side and I am going to set up my Zeoto heat pans. Okay, so I'm going to be working with a Tortix tip, and this is really good for precision and fine engraving. It's very sharp at the end. And I also have other tips that are very sharp at the end and a little bit different. If you wanted to use those, you could, but I would suggest trying it out on your Isomalt to make sure that you have the tip that works best for you. All right, so today we are going to be working with stencils. And before I do that, I just want you to know that I have my heat pen set at 110 degrees Celsius. and if I need a little bit more heat, just gradually bump it up. It's always best to start at a lower heat and gradually increase it if needed. So while that is heating up, today we are going to be working with stencils. Now I wanted to do something kind of fun. I wanted to create a topper that you can use on a cake if you are celebrating a 15th wedding anniversary, which is a crystal anniversary, and I think that this Isomalt would work beautiful for something like that. So I have a stencil with numbers, and I also have a stencil with a design. These are a little bit thicker. This one's a little bit thinner. They all work well with Zeoto, and none of them will be damaged with the heat because it is not high enough to damage your stencils. So I am going to start with the numbers first. Now I know it is kind of hard to tell unless these are cut out, then you can place them in the right place. I don't have mine cut out, so what I can do is I can lay the Isomalt on top of the stencil to see how this is going to work within my design. Okay. And what you can do at this point is lay the stencil underneath if you don't feel comfortable putting the stencil on top, and try to outline the number with your heat pen. If you feel more comfortable utilizing your stencil on top of the Isomalt, then just take it out and place it on top. I just want to make sure that I get this in the right position. Let's make sure this is straight. It's kind of hard here with the mat. And remember, if it doesn't come out the way that you like it, you can always remelt the Isomalt and start all over again. So this is at a pretty good slant. I might straighten it up a little bit here so that it is more centered with the 5. As the 5 will be starting around there. Okay, let's see how this is going to be. I'm going over this twice because I do not use a very high heat when I'm working with Isomalt. Some of you might use a higher heat. So I'm going over it twice because I go very slowly so that the Isomalt melts. And I have a little bit more control over what I'm doing. And you don't have to outline the whole number. You can just use the 1 to the 5. Again, it's a preference on how you like to do it, but we're going to go ahead and outline the whole number just to see how it comes out. And this topper doesn't basically have to be just for 15th wedding anniversary. You can use other numbers like a 50th for golden or silver, and you can always paint in your numbers the color of your anniversary. So there we have the 1. Okay, and now I'm going to come back. I'm going to do the 5. Let's see how that's going to look. Okay, I am hoping I get this right. Now, one thing that I just did because I wasn't paying attention is when you are stenciling, be very careful to not hit the Zeoto. It could burn your finger. I would suggest wearing gloves. Since you're working with Isomalt, you already have a pair, and I am going to put mine on. Alright. And there you can see how beautiful the 15 came out. Hold it this way. Here you go. And later we'll do a design on the edge, so it just gives it a little bit more of a bling bling for your topper. Okay, so now for the base. I have this, I think it's about a 3-inch circle, and I have this stencil that fits perfect on there. So we are going to use this stencil for our base design. Okay. Now this could be a little bit tricky only because you have to hold your stencil to make sure that it stays in place. And as you're working with it, the Isomalt might heat it up and kind of help it stay in place a little bit. And then you can just peel it off. Make sure to always keep your tips clean when working with Isomalt so that it doesn't sit on there and start burning. Okay, I'm going to use the same method. I'm going to outline the outside. And for this design, I don't know if I'm going to use the entire stencil. I'm going to start with the outer part first and see how it goes. And I may add in some of the designs and leave some of them out so it doesn't look too busy. And also for this design, I don't think I'm going to, well, there's not really much room, but I'm just going to stick with the outer part of the stencil versus fill it in with both sides. The thing I love about stencils is you can be creative. You can use some of it, you can leave some of it out, kind of make it your own, add in from another stencil, and just make your own design, which is great. Okay. And once you remove your stencil, if you need to make your design a little bit more defined, you can use a different tip, you can make it a little thicker, just basically however it is you'd like to design it, but there's so many different ways. It's just basically playing around with your tips and design and figuring out what it is you'd like the best. Okay, now see, this is already stuck to the Isomalt a little bit. I don't want to lift it up, which is great because it allows me to be able to take a little spatula, because the stencil is a lot larger than the base, and if I try to pick it up I might loosen it, and I just want to turn it around where I can work with it so it's not awkward when I'm using the heat pen. So here we go, we turned it around, and now I can do the other two sides. Now I'm sure that you can see the definition already here on these two designs compared to the other ones, and that's because I've already engraved into the Isomalt. And again, I want to mention that when you are working with stencils and you have your hands super close because you're holding your piece, be very careful because this is extremely hot and it will burn you if it hits your skin. So I would suggest wearing your Isomalt gloves, or make sure that you are completely in the clear when you're coming around the corner. Okay, now I can see the definition starting to come through because they're engraved on the Isomalt. So at this point in time, do not remove it because we're not sure whether or not we're going to add more of this design. And I think I do want to add some more areas, like maybe the middle part right here, and maybe, well, let's just experiment. Let's just try a couple where they're full and a couple where we do our own design. That way we can see what they look like. And for the middle ones, I am going to outline them completely so that they can fill in that empty space. And I actually like how that looks, so I think I'm going to do them all. I'm sorry, my phone's going off here. Let me put it on mute. Okay, so we have them all done. I missed one on this side. And it is very important to make sure that all the designs that you want have been outlined and done before you remove the stencil. So it does get a little bit tricky with Isomalt to put it right back exactly how you had it because it's so clear. Okay, so I think, and you can tell by looking at the light because it will glare and you'll see the grooves. If you lose your spot, you'll find it. Okay, I think we have them all, and you can probably see it glaring with the light. Yes, we do. All right. This is going to be our centerpiece. This is our base. So we've got to figure out if it's sitting on here, exactly do we want to add in all the other designs or just a few of them? And from the way that I'm seeing it here, that it's going to be sitting, we could probably add in these outer designs as well. Again, that depends on you whether or not you want to add them all, you want to add a different stencil. This is another stencil that you could beautifully use as well on this circle because it's just the right size. And the way that I usually measure whether or not they are going to fit is always take out your circle, your metal circle, or whatever it is you're using to make your Isomalt base, and put it on top just to make sure that it fits within your working space. That way you know you will have the right size for the stencil that you are using. So I'm going to add this outer part here. And these little flowers, just so they look pretty when I put my base on, they'll have a little bit more character. Now you notice I'm not using my little spatula anymore because it's more secure now, but you still need to be very careful because it can lift. All right, again, look at it, make sure you have everything that you want engraved before you remove your stencil. And I think that we are ready to remove it. Okay. There you go, and your stencil. It has a little bit of Isomalt on the edges, but that can easily be wiped off with a damp cloth or water because these don't get damaged. And look how beautiful the stenciling came out on the base. And if you want to go back and add details or engrave a little bit more, then you can. I think it looks gorgeous just the way that it is. And I might do a little bit of some effects right here on the edges just to kind of define them a little bit more. And I am going to change my tip now so we can work on both of the edges. And for the edges, I normally use my knife tip, and because I love the way that it allows me to add texture, but again, you're free to use whatever tip you feel might work best for you. This is the knife tip. It's the one at an angle. You can use your ballpoint tips, the copper ballpoint tips, or any other of the tips. You have 8 aluminum tips and you have 4 copper ballpoint tips that vary in size. Okay, so I see a little part here where I burnt my Isomalt, so I'm going to just kind of remove it a little bit. And there you go. Okay, before you change your tip, since you're working with Isomalt, you have an extreme amount of heat in the tip and this port in the barrel. Inside here is your heating core, and that is even hotter than the outside because it's what generates the heat to your tip. So make sure you turn your pen off, let it cool down before you change your tips. Okay, so my tip has been changed to the knife tip. And when you're using the knife tip, make sure that the pointier part, the top of it is leveled with your heat control and your on and off switch. The reason for this is because when you're holding it, it's at an angle. So if you need to angle it, I'm going to use this as an example, to the side, your on and off switch and your heat controller are not awkwardly positioned where you could change the heat or accidentally turn it off as you're working with it. All right. I think our heat is long enough. Now, for the top part, I see that there's like little areas that have indentations for the design. So I might want to give them a little bit more definition with Zeoto. So I'm going to start with the top part. And I think I'm just going to come in at the edge and kind of give it 2 grooves. Just kind of create my own design. See how that's coming out. You could go all the way around, or you could just kind of play with it and figure out how you want it to look. And that's the fun part. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing there. Okay, so I'm basically looking at this. I'm not sure if I want to add more or let it be, but I think it'd be fun to add some more just to see how it looks. So I'm just going to come around the edges. Okay. And I'm going to, you can see the back side looks just as pretty. I think I'm going to leave these the way that they are and maybe just add a little bit on the edges over here. Just a very small indentation. And then of course you want to do the same up here that you did on the other part. if you can see that. Now basically for the edges, I just gave it a very, very little stroke. I'm going to come up here and kind of add I don't know if you can see that. And I think I'm going to let it be and probably add some texture on the sides just so that it makes it a little bit more crystal-like. I'm just doing a simple diagonal line. You could do it straight if it's easier. And they're not that far apart, they're kind of close together. Okay, if you can see that. Has a lot of texture on the ends and it also sparkles a little bit more. And then we're going to let that be. So now for this one, I'm going to kind of give this one a little different effect. And I'm going to kind of give it a V here as my guide to stop. I'm going to do that here as well. And for this one, I'm just going to do lines vertically and then come back the other way. You can use a ruler, it might be easier, but I'm just going to kind of do it freehand and hope that it comes out okay. Can you see that? Alright, I'm going to come back the other way, and you'd usually just go from end to tip or in between if you have a lot of space. It's kind of hard to see because I have the light glaring, so I'm calculating it as best as I can. Okay, you see that? So now you've added a different texture. Let's see if I can hold it. There you go. And I'm just going to do that on all the edges. want to do this so you can see how it looks if you were to leave it with just those one vertical line versus two to give it more of a crystal effect. Okay, you could probably even do it at an angle, like a half circle. There's a lot of ways that you can do it. So I'm going to come back and do this. Kind of lost my angle on this one, so I'm going to come back and fix it. Okay, and there we go. It just makes that center design just pop out. So you can see that how really beautiful that is. All right, now I'm going to give it some texture on the edge. Again, I'm just going to come at an angle. If you want to come straight, you can. I like doing angles because then I come back and I do like a crisscross effect, just so it has a little bit more crystal effect to it. And I really never measure, I just kind of eyeball it. Now, I don't know if you can see that my hands keep shaking every now and then. This is why I always use my base to support it so I can keep it as firm as I can. And then I kind of like lean this one on the table and work them both. Like it's almost like, what would you say, knitting, crocheting kind of movements. If you're working with your Isomalt and your pen suspended in the air, it will be a lot more difficult to maintain the stableness you need for your design. Okay, I'm done with that. Now I'm going to come the other way from point to point. All right, and we are done. I'm going to turn my pen off. Don't know if you can see the design on the edges. Let's hold it like this. There you go. See how that sparkles with the light? This is the back side. You can see it's as equally as beautiful and clean, and this is the upper side. Okay, so now what you want to do is take melted isomalt. I'm going to show you how this would. You want to put your 15 on there, and you have your topper done. So let me heat up some isomalt, and we will adhere it to the base. Okay, I have heated up some isomalt. I have a little extra piece here. I just want to test it to make sure it's not going to be too runny. It seems okay. And I'm going to turn my heat pen back on only because I always smoothen out the edges with my heat pen once I add it on to the base. So let's dip it in a little bit of isomalt, kind of let it drip. Let's make sure we get it right in the middle. Hold it in place till it cools. If you have a fan, and this can also be used for a quinceañera. Anything that applies to 15, a 15th wedding anniversary for Crystal. You could do 50th, paint these designs in gold. There's so much you can do. I just thought it'd be fun to do a 15th wedding anniversary, which represents Crystal. And it'd be great for a celebration topper, or even as a gift. Okay, so that feels pretty stable. Now I want to wait for my heat pen to be hot enough. I'm going to kind of move this in a little bit. My hands. And then what I do with my heat pen, let me make sure it's okay, we are getting there, is I come and I take, let me see if I could turn this to the side so you can see. You see the little excess isomalt on the ends? I take my heat pen and I work it into the crystal design so it looks a little bit cleaner and incorporated as one piece. Okay. So for this, I usually hold it with the knife tip upside down as I push it up, because it's at the angle that I need for it to come up at. Okay. I also had a little bit of excess, so I kind of pushed it. In to the base with my knife tip at an angle sideways, and then worked it up into the design. Just let it cool. And then we will do the other side. Okay, I want to show you this so you can see it. Here's the excess. I'll try and do as best as I can so that you can see. Now if you see the other side, you don't see that excess anymore. Okay, so we're going to do the same with the back now. Just want to make sure that it's cool enough so that it doesn't start leaning towards the other side. You can kind of support it with this hand if you need to make sure that it doesn't lean over. So I'm going to, if I want to remove, if I have too much and I want to remove some, I can always heat the Isomalt and just kind of remove as much of it as I need to if I have way too much. Okay, so I have pushed it in to where I'm happy. And now I'm going to come with the tip upside down and just come upwards so that it has that crystal effect that we gave it on the top part. And just kind of work it in there. Okay, I think that is good. Let me make sure it's stable. Yes, it is. Now if you can see, let me try and angle it. You can see how I kind of worked that excess Isomalt so it wouldn't look so thick on the edges, and worked it into my topper, or into my, yes, my topper part. So there you go. We are done. And again, you can use any stencil you like. You can do any design you want. You can even put in little pearls, or you can even do like fondant flowers and add them in here in the tips if you like. Just be creative and have fun with it. You have a lot going on with this beautiful texture on this amazing Isomalt. I mean, I just love semi-Isomalt because it's so beautiful, so clear, and when you do the etched glass effect, it just sparkles, especially if it's in the sun.